I don't want us to unite with the right. I want us to stay divided. That is what some low IQ people would say to you about me. Nonsense. Cenk from the Young Turks recently did a video with Sean Ryan, a right-wing guy, ex-Navy SEAL supposedly. And again, he's talking his normal talk about uniting with the right. I got no issues with uniting with the right, right? And this is the way, Cenk is doing his Ben Shapiro impression. What Ben Shapiro does, he finds the most ridiculous person on the left, some kind of crazy, wacky liberal, and he hyper-focuses on that person to make that person represent the entire left, right? So the only images that his audience gets of the left is the absolute worst. So to his audience, the entire left is just these crazy pink-haired liberals. Like, that's the entire left wing, right? So Cenk would like to paint with a broad brush his critics as morons who don't want to unite with the right. They're in their little bubbles, right? They're mad. They're just mad because you're talking to someone on the right wing. Like, these people do legitimately exist. And Cenk is correct to call them out, but incorrect to focus on the crazy pink-haired liberal equivalent, right? And ignore people like myself who have substantive criticisms. This is the analogy that I'd like to use for what Cenk is doing. Cenk is trying to start a movement to fight back against abuse of women in his neighborhood, right? So there's a lot of sexual assaults and things like that, and they're trying to push back, right? There's a guy who's known to go around assaulting women who has gone on social media and said that no means no and women should be treated with respect. This is a guy who's actively abusing women, right? But because he went online and said something that Cenk agrees with, all of a sudden Cenk wants to be an ally with this guy. So Cenk wants to be, on one hand, pushing back against abuse of women, while on the other hand, sharing drinks with a guy who's abusing women. What? Now, Sean Ryan, I'm not sure about. He seems like one of the rare exceptions that he might actually be legit. I'm not sure on that one, don't quote me on that, but he definitely doesn't give all the very obvious and easy to see red flags of like, this guy's a complete fraud. They're just saying, whatever gets views. I could be wrong on that, but if he is legit, as he seems like he might be, sure, unite with him, right? See, that's the thing, you don't want to talk about that, right? The fact that there are people like myself who have no problem. If Sean is legit, unite with him, right? The strength in numbers. He can help spread the message or whatever it is you guys can work on together. Awesome. However, Tucker Carlson is basically a Donald Trump type character, a younger, smarter Donald Trump, right? And you are on your show talking about one of the largest propagandists in America, implying that he's a really good journalist. So you could be the biggest propagandist ever, but if you do an interview where you expose someone about something that I believe in, all of a sudden you're now a good journalist. I think one of the things about being a propagandist is being very manipulative and being very clever in what you do and how you say things. So for example, these guys, when they do their softball interviews, it's not because they don't know how to do a good interview, right? They can do a good interview if they choose to, but they're propagandists, and that's the point, right? So the idea that the same people who were kind of hand-waving away Project 2025 and the threats of Trump in the second term, and now he's elected, now you see the damage, that you're basically doing the same thing, where you are knowing that a lot of people are just not that sharp, unfortunately. So how many people are going to be watching the Young Turks and starting to look at Tucker as some kind of truth teller, who had some moment where they realized they were wrong and they apologized and he's actually being legitimate? How many people are you going to convince of that are going to get sucked up into... First of all, he's very dangerous. He's really good at propaganda. So you don't want to rehabilitate him because he's very effective at manipulating people, and you're helping him to do that. And once he gets in your brain, like people who watch Tucker Carlson for a long time, like you can't talk to him. So these people couldn't get caught up in his rhetoric and believe in him and elect him for president. And he'll do the same stuff that Donald Trump is doing right now, perhaps even worse, because he's smarter than Donald Trump. So he might get away with a lot more than Trump would. So he can cause a lot more damage to the country. And the Young Turks would have been part of his rehabilitation. Seems a little bit problematic to me. Unite with the right. Find as many people on the right as possible to unite with. But let's not unite with the actual wolves when we're trying to stop the wolves. Just an idea.